All right, let's talk about our path. So first off, the path is the overall direction the club is moving through space when we're coming through impact. If this stick is where we're aimed, having a neutral path is when we swing down the target line. Swinging in to out is having our path be to the right, and swinging out from out to in is having our path be to the left for right-handed golfer. You can flip that around if you're left-handed. Now, path is going to do a few things. First off, the main thing path does is it's going to determine the direction the ball curves. Now, it's the path in relationship to the club face. Now, there's also a thing called gear effect. We'll ignore that here. So we'll say all things being equal, just the face and the path. The face relative to the path is going to determine the curvature. What do I mean by that? Well, let's assume this stick right here is the direction my club face is aimed when I get to impact. Well, if this is where my face is aimed, anytime I swing right of my club face, the ball is going to hook more to the left. Anytime I swing left of my club face, the ball is going to slice more to the right. So it's always going to be the face to path relationship that's going to create the curvature. Again, we're taking out contact and gear effect here. So that's why when you see players hit big old slices, oftentimes they're coming over the top and wiping across the golf ball. And oftentimes we see players hit big hooks, they will drop the club under plane and swing way out to the right in that direction because that wants the ball to hook more to the left. If you can pay attention to both your start line and your curvature, you can really start to suss out why is the ball curving the way it is and why is it starting on the line it's starting on. Remember, the face determines about 80% of the start line. The path determines about 20% of the start line. So start line meaning the initial direction the ball starts flying. So let's give a gimme real quick. Let's say the ball starts on line. Well, if the ball starts on line, our face was pretty much square at impact, and our path wasn't dramatically left or to the right. If our ball starts to the left, because again, the face is the main thing that determines the start line, let's just basically say it does determine the start line because it's so substantial. If our ball starts 10 yards to the left, we know our face was about 10 yards left at impact. If our ball starts 10 yards right, we know our face was about 10 yards right at impact. So by seeing how straight or right or left the ball initially starts flying off the club face is going to tell us where our face was aimed when we got to impact. Now, how the ball curves after that is going to tell us our path. If the ball is curving to the left, our path was right of our face. Think of it as opposites. If I was going to bowl a ball down a bowling lane, I would take my hand and roll it to the right over here, and I'd make the ball curve left. If I wanted the ball to curve to the right, I would throw my hand underneath to the left, and it would have left to right spin. Same thing with the golf swing. If we swing to the right of our club face, the ball wants to hook to the left. If we swing left of our club face, the ball wants to slice off to the right. So you can pay attention to that. Anytime the ball is hooking from right to left, we know that our path was probably right of our club face. And if our ball is slicing from left to right, we know our path was left of our face. So we can start to put two and two together. We could say, okay, again, it's always going to be the relationship between the face and the path. Well, let's say we're hitting a perfect draw. Well, how would we hit a perfect draw? Well, we wouldn't have the stick be at the target anymore. We would actually have our face or the stick be aimed a little bit to the right. Why would it be aimed to the right? Because if we're going to hit a draw, we need room for that ball start to the right of the target and then curve back to the target. We don't want to start at the target and curve to the left. We want to have room for it to curve into the target. So we want our face to be a little bit to the right, and then we want our path to be even more right of where our club face is aimed so that ball can curve from right to left. Now we're trying to control how much we swing to the right, and if we do control it relative to our face, the ball is going to have the correct amount of curvature. Same thing with a fade. We don't want to aim it at the target here. We want our face to be a little bit closed, aimed a little bit left, because again, we need room to start that ball left so it can fade back in the target. So as long as our path is left of where our face is aimed, that ball is going to have left to right spin. So now you have an idea of saying, okay, I know how to play fades and I know how to play draws now. Now the thing is we got to learn to control it. If we know how the face and the path are going to create these shot shapes, how do we start to gain control of that? Well, the first thing I would say is just learn to create a fade and a draw at your will. Even if it's a massive hook and it's a massive slice, learn to aim left for a fade and learn to swing hard across the golf ball from out to in and make sure that ball is curving in the direction of your choosing because you've learned to change your path enough to create that slice. Then do the opposite. Make sure your ball is drawing, even if you hit a giant hook. Learn to drop the club more behind you, swing way more into out, and let that club face release over much more aggressively in this direction as you're coming through. And now that'll help you square up your face while getting your pathway to the right. And now all of a sudden your ball can hook on you. Now that you have the ability in a sense of what's creating a fade or a slice and what's creating a draw or a hook, now you can scale it down. Now you can say, okay, let me not play a huge slice. Let me not play a snap hook. Let me try and make those things tighter. Use the same principle of aiming left for a fade, but don't come way across it. Maybe swing a little bit across it. Maybe now we're hitting a 30-yard fade. Then do the same thing for draw. Swing a little bit less into out and create like a 30 or 40-yard hook. And then just keep scaling it down and down and down until eventually you could hit a 10 or a 15 or a 20-yard fade, and you could hit a 10 or a 15 or 20-yard draw. It's going to take you some time. I'm not saying this is a one-day process, but keep doing it over the course of weeks or months, however long it takes you, and keep scaling it in. And now you have the ability to control your path and to control the curvature you want. And if you're paying attention to the curvature, you're ultimately going to be in control of your path, because by manipulating how far you're swinging sideways one way or another in relation to that club face, that's going to determine how far your ball curves. So number one, make sure your ball's starting on the line you want. Again, if you want to hit a 20-yard draw, make sure your ball is starting 20 yards to the right. From there, make sure you're swinging right at your club face so your ball is curving to the left. And once you get a good sense of that, you can scale it up or down. Okay, I'm starting my ball 20 yards right, but it's actually slicing on me. Why is that happening? Well, I'm not swinging to the right of my face. I'm actually swinging left of my face, which means the ball is going to slice. So I better swing more into out over here so that ball can actually curve back to my target. Or perhaps you have the other problem. Maybe your ball's starting on line, but you are hitting a huge hook to the left. Well, what's going on? Your face was square, but you're swinging way too far into out. Let's make that much more subtle. That way our ball can tighten up its curvature. It's not hooking on you dramatically. If you're looking at a fade, do the same thing in reverse. But if you first understand, is my face square or not, then you have a chance of hitting the curve you want. So the first goal is you have to get your ball started on line. Again, that 20-yard draw, get it to start 20 yards right or very close to it. If you want to hit a 10-yard fade, make sure that ball's starting 10 yards left or close to it, within a few yards one way or another. If the face is getting way too far off, well, who cares what our path is doing at that point, because our face is just not in the ballpark to create what we want. But once we've learned to square up the club face, now we can start to season our path in relationship to that club face and create the curvature we want, and we can make that tighter over time so our curvature is more and more refined. So start line is number one, club face, the ability to square that up is number one, and after we have good control of squaring up our club face for whatever shot we want to hit, then it's getting our path in the right relationship to the face, so we're curving the ball in the direction we want and to the degree we want. That's why path is so important. Now, path is also important for other reasons. Path is, I would say, the other massive reason why path is important is it's going to greatly affect our low point and our contact. Low point is when we hit the ground, in the most simple of terms, and contact is where we hit the ball on the club face, whether it's low, high, toe, or to the heel. The more we start to swipe across the golf ball from out to in this direction, the more we swing that way, the more our low point, let's say this is the middle of my stance, the more my low point gets more forward in front of the golf ball over here. So maybe you notice you're hitting a lot of top shots, you're hitting a lot of thin shots, but you're also having your path be away from the outside and wiping across it. Well, that's going to make you hit a lot more thin shots and top a lot more golf balls because your low point gets very far forward. Or maybe your ball position is so far forward in your stance, you have to come this way to reach it. So there are things that can be going on, but all things being equal, the more you come over the top or the more you swing to the left, the more your low point gets forward, which affects when you're going to hit the ground. On the flip side, the more we get our path swinging from in to out to the right over this way, the more our low point goes more back in our stance. It comes back more in this direction over here, which makes it very easy for us to hit fat shots because we're more likely to hit behind the golf ball. Or perhaps we don't hit the ground behind the ball and all of a sudden we're catching on the upswing where the club goes from being very low to the ground and starts moving up away from it. And now we're going to hit tops because we're hitting too far up on it and we're never getting underneath the golf ball. So when we start to have our path get changed, it changes our low point, which can lead to more fat shots in this direction or even thinner top shots. And if it starts to go too far over the top this way, we're definitely going to hit a lot more thin shots in that direction. And that, again, greatly influences our low point. The other thing it's going to affect is our contact. Not just there, because obviously contact, we're talking about fat and thin shots, but also towards the heel or towards the toe. The more we get our path to be extreme, one way Or another, we're very likely to hit it either off the toe or towards the heel. They're both open for business when we're swiping across it. Why is that? Well, let's say this stick represents the golf ball right here. If that stick represents the golf ball, what happens when I'm swinging down the line? Well, the club, when I'm swinging down the line, is staying square to that golf ball and square to the target for a very long period of time. When I start to wipe from out to in, and the more I swing across the golf ball, the more extreme it becomes, the more I swing from out to in, what's happening is this hosel of the club, the heel over here, is entering into the golf ball first, then it's very quickly wiping to the middle of the face, and then very quickly wiping to the toe of the club. So it's swiping across the ball so fast that the odds that my ball is being right here, that I hit it off the hosel, off the middle of the face, or off the toe, it's all up for grabs because it's moving so quickly across the golf ball. A lot of people, when they start to come way too far over the top, hit a lot of shanks because their heel is coming into the golf ball first and they hit it off the hosel, and that ball shanks off to the right. Or they'll come so hard across it, they're going to hit it way off the toe, and they'll see their ball mark be over here on the chrome instead of being on the grooves. Again, sometimes they'll square it up and hit the middle of the face, but it's very, very difficult to hit the middle of the face when we're wiping across it from the outside. Same thing when we go the other direction. Same idea. When we go from way in to out, we're still wiping hard across the golf ball. We're just doing it with the toe first now. The toe is coming into the golf ball first, so very likely to hit it there, and then it moves to the middle of the face, and then the hosel is moving towards the golf ball. So a lot of people who get underplane over here will also shank it because that hosel is moving out towards the golf ball, and it's very easy to hit a shank if we get too far underplane and our path gets too far out to the right. So our path is primarily important because it's going to determine how the ball curves, our path relative to our face, but it also greatly influences how we hit the ground, when we hit the ground, and where we're going to strike the golf ball in the club face. So if you want your best chance of making solid contact with the golf ball on the ground and hitting the ball in the middle of the face, you want your path to be more or less neutral, at least relative to where your body is aimed. Now you can swing a little bit right to hit a draw, you can swing a little bit left to hit a fade, and you won't really get compromised too much or at all. But if you're swinging way across the golf ball and way across your body one way or another, now we're going to have a really tough time making good contact with the ground and good contact with the golf ball in the club face. And we're going to be very inconsistent, both in terms of distance and direction, and it's going to feel terrible when we're hitting shots. So making sure our path isn't getting too extreme, that way we're hitting, relatively small curvatures, not hitting wiping slices and massive snap hooks, is very important. So anyway, that's the importance of path. And what I would encourage you to do is, again, first, pay attention to your start line. Make sure your ball's starting on the line you want. From there, experiment with how far you have to swing into out or out to in to create draws and create fades at your command. Once you can hit both shot shapes, start to bring them in, rein them in so the ball's not over curving and slicing and hooking, that it's becoming more of a tight draw, more of a tight fade, and now you have both shots at your disposal. But the other thing that's really cool is all of a sudden your swing starts to become more neutral as well. Tiger Woods talked about this as one of the main ways he used to practice. He would say he would hit an equal amount of high draws in this direction and then low fades. Because what happens when you do that? Well, if you hit a low fade, that's the most extreme over the top in swiping across the golf ball pattern you can have. And high draws is the most underplane and swinging out to the right pattern you can have. Well, if you're hitting an equal amount of fades, an equal amount of high draws, and then an equal amount of straight shots, you're breaking up your practice into thirds, what are you doing? You're getting a really good sense of where your path is in each direction, but also if all things balance out between the extreme right path, the extreme left path, and the neutral path is a neutral path. So you're actually training yourself to get very good at swinging more down the line by working both sides of the street. So it's actually a really cool way to do it. So anyway, that's the importance of path, and it's very, very important that we get good at not just recognizing where our path is, but being able to control it as we're swinging through the ball.